Okay, so we'll just wait a few more seconds and people are joining in, which is exciting. Okay, so it's right at the top of the hour, so we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you for joining us today. We're really excited to welcome you to our, this webinar, and we're showcasing our brand new escape rooms. And these resources are a result of a collaborative summer project by our state ambassadors, and you're the first group that we're sharing them with. So we're once again really excited to be doing that. And so we'll briefly cover a little bit about CNC for those of you who are not familiar with our resources. And then we'll talk about our development process and spend the majority of our time this afternoon exploring the resources in depth. So once again, there's a QR code and a bit.ly link to the presentation. And the bit.ly is case sensitive, so just so you know. Feel free to introduce yourselves in the chat. And when you do so, if you can add your grade level band with either an E for elementary, M for middle school, or H for high school, we can better understand our audience, and we'll use that information to cover additional escape rooms as time allows. And if you're representing multiple grades, just choose the grade level band that you're most interested in exploring today. So if you have questions, feel free to enter them in the chat. We do our best to answer as we go along, but again, since this is our first presentation, we don't know what the questions or how many questions will be, and we do want to get to elementary, middle, and high school, so we may defer your questions to the end. And we will stay on the presentation at the conclusion after 2 o'clock to address any questions we can't answer during the presentation. So you're welcome to stay on if you can. And if not, we'll try and answer those via email. So we have over 400 folks registered for today. And once again, we'll post a recording and send that out via email, an email notification once it's posted. We have a February 1st sort of deadline for ourselves, so it'll definitely be up in 2 weeks. My name is Dana Greenspan. I'm a retired educator with 24 years of education, the last 10 being with the Ventura County Office of Education, and that serves as both like a RESA and a BOSA in other parts of the country, and also a school district. And so we had 140,000 students that we supported in addition to our own court and community and special education students. And our smallest district was 56, and our largest district was over 20,000. So I'm really lucky today to be joined by some awesome educators. All these folks did work on the project, but this was not all who worked on the project and who serve as their state ambassadors. So we have Tim Jamieson, Jenn Roth, and Brittany Fleming. And I don't see Jen. Are you on the call yet?
I am, yes.
Oh, okay. All right, so great. So Jen, if you'd like to introduce yourself, please.
I am Jenn Roth. I'm a librarian in Pennsylvania. I am about 45 minutes from Philadelphia. I'm really excited to be here today, and I educate students kindergarten through 6th grade.
Great, thank you. Brittany?
Hi, I'm a K-4 elementary librarian. I'm located in Northwest Arkansas. I'm also an adjunct professor for university here in Arkansas, where I teach a copyright and intellectual property course for their library media graduates.
Great, thank you. And Tim?
Hi, I'm Tim Jamieson. I am a high school teacher of industrial technology and technology in Wentzville, Missouri, just outside of St. Louis. I'm also a former middle school technology teacher for years.
Great, thank you so much. And so here you can see their contact information. Feel free to reach out to them or follow them on their social media links. So just a little disclaimer, we're not lawyers. Nothing that we say to you is to be construed as legal advice. So if you have questions, sometimes we're not able to answer them by giving you a definitive yay or nay, but again, not lawyers. And we did have, the materials were created by educators like yourselves and also lawyers on both sides of the copyright spectrum. So the resulting resources are a non-biased approach to copyright and fair use. And if you've attended any of our other webinars or used our resources, you can see that we have a plethora of resources. They're all free. They're free today and they'll be free tomorrow, so no bait and switch there. And once again, you'll see that we focus on really positive messaging. And so we have lesson plans, slides, videos, a PD course, supplemental resources. And again, we're excited to add our escape room activities for all grade levels. And just so you know, the materials were developed by I Keep Safe and by, which was a nonprofit, and they changed their business model a few years ago. So we found a new home for them because we knew the resources were just too good to let lie. And so we found a new nonprofit, the Internet Education Foundation. So if you use our other resources, and we encourage you to do so, you can use them in full, or if you use them they're all Creative Commons licensed, so you can use just a piece of them. And so we just ask that you provide attribution to both I Keep Safe and Internet Education Foundation. And again, our approach is really positive, emphasizing kids' roles as creators and getting them to think about works that they create or might create someday, and looking at copyright protection from that perspective. And if you've used our resources or go through them, you'll see that we don't have those laundry lists of you can't do this, you can't do that, but really encouraging kids to be creators. And so we try to take that same approach with our escape rooms. And so I don't know, I'm guessing that many of you are familiar with escape rooms. You may be using them currently with your students. You may be using Breakout EDU, which is a proprietary, can't say it, escape room. But really, they encourage creative, not only creative thinking and collaboration, but all the 4 C's: critical thinking, communication, creativity, collaboration. And really, we decided that this would be a fun way to not only reinforce kind of an ending, culminating project after the lessons are taught, to really help kids kind of reinforce what they learned, but in a fun way that they can relate to. So I'm going to turn this over to Tim now. And he's going to talk a little bit about the escape rooms overall and sort of our development process.
Yeah, so we started this process of developing the escape rooms a couple of summers ago, and it's really been a very collaborative process. There's been a handful, maybe upwards of 6 or 7 of us involved. And each lesson, each escape room that coincides with a lesson started off by simply going back to our PDF lesson plan and the slide deck for each lesson. And after reviewing those, the resources, we identified the core concepts and then started to begin to develop clues around them. And every one of us was involved in developing clues, either individually or collaboratively. But typically it would start with like a concept sketch, and whoever came up with the idea would then bring it to the group and explain their thinking and what they thought it would look like. And what that initiated was kind of this feedback and revision loop that just kind of was very iterative, and it just continued until we kind of fleshed out, okay, this is what we want this puzzle to look like. It was then my responsibility to take over and take the concept and make it into a finished puzzle using some digital tools, mostly Adobe Photoshop, Illustrator. Once we had 4 clues for each grade level activity or each lesson, I would build the Google site that it went on. And then once we had, for example, all of our elementary puzzles created or sites created at each grade level, then it was forwarded on to our attorney. This began another review process where there was a lot of feedback and revision as well. And this was particularly as it related to the law. There can be a lot of nuance that isn't necessarily in the details of a lesson. And so it was really gone through with a fine-tooth comb, and that feedback came back to the group. revisions happened again. And ultimately what we ended up with is what we believe is a really solid escape room for each lesson, which is accurate, it's engaging, it's consistent with the lessons and consistent with the law. Finished that process for elementary, then did the same thing for middle school and high school. A couple of things that come up in questions about it. It should be noted that in every lesson, at the escape room for each lesson has puzzles of varying difficulty. What we've found from our experience as educators in using escape room activities is that if you have a whole escape room in which all of the locks are really challenging or all the puzzles are really challenging, one, you have a tendency to alienate your students who can't problem solve at a higher level. And two, even your average and above average students, if it's too challenging, they can get frustrated, it can lead to fatigue and then disinterest and they start to disengage. So it's deliberate that there's a more basic lock that's easier to solve at each level. So it builds in that success for students of all ability levels and also encourages continued engagement so you don't get that fatigue. You know, you get that, oh yes, I got it right. Now I want to try another one. Also, it should be noted that some locks aren't really heavy on copyright content. They can be a little more tangentially associated with the topic. But again, we try to remember that while our primary focus is to reinforce the lesson, there are other outcomes we want out of using escape rooms, like promoting problem solving, working together with others, building community in the classroom. So, for example, in some elementary activities, there may be just kind of a tangential connection to the content. But in those cases, what we try to do is use the characters directly out of the lessons in our clues so that they have this visual reminder of what we were talking about when we were learning the concepts. And that's a great opportunity for the teacher to facilitate discussion and say, oh, remember what these characters were doing when we were doing the lesson? And it helps bring back that connection. Really, the escape rooms are designed to supplement instruction and again, reinforce those concepts that we covered in the lessons. It might be a little tempting to try and use them as standalone activities, but as a standalone activity, these escape rooms are not instructive. And so they should be used only after teaching the lessons. Without teaching the lessons ahead of time, what you'll find is the students lack the necessary content knowledge to solve the puzzles. So again, afterwards, as a culminating and supplemental activity is when we recommend using them. And then just a little bit about the structure of the escape rooms. They pretty much look the same, K through 12. There are 4 puzzles for each lesson. So 1 for each of the K-6 lessons at elementary. There's 4 at the middle school to coincide with the 4 lessons, and 3 at high school to coincide with the 3 high school lessons. There is one exception to that. We did combine the kindergarten and first grade one, but otherwise every lesson has its own escape room. As you might expect, the difficulty level goes up as students get older. But all of them can be done in a variety of ways. They can either be done as a whole class with the teacher facilitating, like on the projector or on the screen, where the teacher even enters the answers, which we recommend at the primary grades. But also, as kids get older, they could be assigned to individuals or they could be assigned to small groups. And in addition to the puzzles, there's a facilitator guide, and this gets to be your crutch. You may be thinking, my brain doesn't work like this. I have trouble with these kinds of problem-solving puzzles. That's okay. The facilitator guide is there to help you understand how the clues are set up and how they get solved, so you can help students. You can give them tips. They can ask for hints, and it'll help you facilitate that. So make sure you're going through the facilitator guide ahead of time so you know the answers and you know how to get them. So rather than when a kid says, oh, I need help, what they're really asking for is the answer. We don't want to give them the answers. We want to give them some hints on how they can arrive at the answers. All answers are going to be submitted on a Google form that is embedded in the escape room site. There's data validation on for it, so that if they enter the wrong answer for one of the locks, it'll say try again. So they're unable to submit the Google form until all answers are correct. Once they submit it, all answers are correct, they get a message that says, congratulations, you escaped. And as a teacher, that's your visual to know that they were successful in escaping the room, so to speak. Questions arise over the use of the Google form. Due to district data and privacy policies, we do not collect any data at all. So therefore, no student logins are used. Nobody's required to have a Google account. It can be used for anybody. It's just not going to give you specific feedback for your specific students. So you're going to want to rely on that you broke out screen as your assessment, so to speak. Also on the topic of district policies, I wanted to mention one more thing. Some of our puzzles use external tools. For example, we've used learningapps.org and jigsawplanet.com. It's important to review these escape rooms in advance, not only so you're familiar with them and you can assist your students with solving the puzzles, but also to be sure that the external sites are not blocked by your content filter at school. And again, check it from school and not from home, because it may not be blocked at home when you get to school and it's blocked. If there is one of our external sites or external tools that is blocked, what will happen is you'll still have access to the escape room for that particular lesson, but the one that is blocked, the one clue that's blocked by your filter will not be available. So you can't complete the entire thing. And I know most districts have a process for getting things unblocked or reviewed. So you want to make sure you go through that before starting or assigning the escape room activities to your students.
Great. And here's on the right, you'll see the Google form filled out. It shows you, congratulations, you've escaped. And when you have all the right answers, we're going to share that with you during our presentation. And then here's an example of the facilitator guide that Tim mentioned. And so we really want you to open the guide. The top part of it shows you some overarching hints about the puzzles. And then we have information on each puzzle, and it gives you some tips on how to solve it. We're going to look at that again in detail when we go to the individual grade level puzzles, but we're also going to be adding a section called tips and troubleshooting to address the most common questions that we've received. One of them being, and it was on the chat today, we're a Microsoft school, can we still participate? Do students need to log in and have Google accounts? And so no, they do not. You don't need to be, it's web-based, so you don't need to be a Google district. So we'll have those, but what we're doing is right now we're compiling those questions. We're seeing what we get most frequently, and then we will be adding those to our tips and troubleshooting, so that if you share this with colleagues, they'll know to check back and look for that. So right now I'm going to go to our website. Let me too much open. So I'm going to go to copyrightandcreativity.org. This is our website. There was a question about what resources. Here are all of our lessons. So we have lessons at the elementary, middle, and high school. We also have a professional development course. And so you'll see as we go into the lesson, the individual puzzles, how they tie back to our lessons. We also have office hours and webinars, and I'm going to refer back to this page because here are office hours. Here where the webinar recordings will be posted, and we're really encouraging you. So we do first Thursday, second Wednesday, third Tuesday of every month at various times, and we're encouraging you after you attend the session, or if your colleagues have questions about the escape rooms, just join us on the office hours, and we'll walk through what your issues are. But there's a couple different ways to access the escape rooms. The easiest way is to go to the What's New pop-up, And you can click on elementary, middle, or high school. I'm not going to do that right now. If you close the pop-up, it won't reopen until you for 24 hours. So when you have to go back to the site again, but there are other ways to access the escape rooms. And we're going to start off with elementary. So I'm going to share that, and I'll show you on the other pages as well. So if you click on the elementary resources, you're going to see all of our curriculum, grades K through 6. You'll see our lesson PDF, our lesson slides, and then a link to the escape room. There's also a link to the escape room activities at the top where the beta graphic is. And then also at the bottom under supplemental materials, there's also, I'm not able to see it because I have the pop-up there, but a link down there as well. So we're going to go to the K1 escape room. And so this takes you to actually the all of the escape rooms for all the various grade levels. And so and here's the facilitator guide PDF. So you have a link to the escape room, you have a link to the facilitator guide. I'm going to click on the escape room, and I'm going to turn this over to Jen, and I'm going to drive, and I'm not a great driver, so bear with me. So, but she's going to walk you through an elementary puzzle.
Before we start that, I just wanted to let everyone know, if you have not seen our resources before, after a couple clicks on our website, you will need to register on our website. They're very simple questions. We're just asking for your email. You don't have to create a password. Just asking what your position in your district is, or what your position is in general. Maybe you're in a private school. And we really just use that information for the grant that we have to keep these resources alive. Again, Dana already said the resource will always be there, but this hands-on training that we're providing right now will be there, and that's what that information is used for. And we also like to email out about upcoming webinars and opportunities that we have for professional development. And so after a few clicks, if it's asking you to register, go ahead and register. We promise we won't inundate you with emails. All right, I'm going to go ahead and jump in to the elementary level. As Dana said, everyone who's speaking today, we all had a pivotal role in creating these escape rooms. And the elementary one, since I teach elementary, this is the one that I worked on really hard this summer. This one goes along with the kindergarten and first grade lesson called Respect the Person, and it's great to create and play fair. And the lesson is all about putting your name on your paper and making you the creator of your own work, and making sure that you're claiming that. And then you're also being respectful and not claiming somebody else's work as your own. And so we're going to share the fourth activity in this escape room. So once you do the lesson, what I like to do is I like to display this on the board for all of my students to see. And then I will click on the image, and then I ask them, okay, what do you see? And they're like, oh, there's Tim, there's Carl, because those are the names of the characters from the video, from the lesson. And I'm like, okay, well, what do you see next? And they will go, I see characters, people's pictures. And I go, okay, well, what did we learn about the lesson? They're like, put your name on your own paper. I'm like, great job. So let's go ahead and look at this. And they're like, everyone has their name on their paper. I said, okay, well, look a little closer, right? Is everyone claiming their own work? And as you can see, they all have their names on a part of their body, like their shirt. And so when you look at the pictures in the frame, you're going to see that some of them are claiming somebody else's work. And the students are, they agree with that. And then we pick out the students who are doing the right thing, right? We want to keep this positive as to what to do and not what not to do. And so we have them look at the 3 students who are doing the right thing. And okay, so now it's 1, 3, and 4. We see numbers here. I go, okay, but it's a color lock. So if you look at the form, you're going to see that it's a color lock. So what can we see next? Okay, they tell me that they see the color shirts of the characters who claim their work. So usually they'll tell me red, green, and purple. And so in the Google form, I will write down red, green, and purple. And Dana's going to demonstrate that here at the bottom. Red, green. And it's showing us that the answer is not correct. Okay, well, now I'm stumped, right? And so what we do is what I did was I opened up the facilitator guide and I said, okay, let's see if I can look at my sheet here, my facilitator guide, and let me see if I can get a hint could give us what exactly we need to be looking for here. And so I opened up the facilitator guide and I realized that it does come from the colors of the students who claim their own work. However, the colors are not the colors of their shirt. It comes from the frames. And so again, I asked the students, okay, let's look a little closer. What other colors can we see? And then sometimes they will say the picture, the color of the ink that the students used on the picture. And then eventually we do come to the frame. Sometimes, like I had one class who was like, it's the frames right away, Mrs. Roth. And I was like, yes, great job. But sometimes you do have to navigate them. And so again, it's on the board. They're looking at them. And then at the end, what I'll do is I'll put in the right answer. So as you can see, Dana, do you want to put in the right answer then for them to see?
Yeah, I have too many windows open, so I have to just get back to my to the puzzle. Okay, so we'll go back. So the color lock, so we had red, green, purple, and what we want to have is red, blue, black, right?
Yes.
And these are case sensitive. So like the letter lock you'll see has to be all uppercase. So and this has to be lowercase with a space in between. So if I just ran them all together or didn't leave the space, it wouldn't be correct. So what it's doing is it's kicking out the first two because you have to submit all the responses, but this answer is now correct, red, blue, black.
Yeah, so as you can see, the answer, as Dana said, is correct for the last one. And then this is what it's going to look like if you put all the correct answers in. So
Okay,
Dana's go ahead and demonstrate that. Now, for kindergarten and first grade on the facilitator guide, it does say that it's for the teacher-led activity, which means, again, I put it on the board for my students. I even did that for second grade. It really depends on what your students' comfortableness is and how well they know technology and how to navigate. I know that some people are using escape rooms all the time, and then some people are not. So if this is your first time ever doing an escape room with students, I would highly recommend an elementary level, put it up on the board and have a big discussion as a class as to what you can see, and then use that facilitator guide as a way to guide yourself and giving hints more than giving them the answer, because you do want them to do higher level of thinking, that critical thinking, and to come to an answer together as a class. Another option for the higher level students, so if you say, okay, my students in fourth grade, we've done this in second grade, we've done this in third grade, I feel that they can do this on their own. One recommendation that I have done is once they complete it, sometimes I have them work in groups and sometimes I have them work individually. I'll have them take a screenshot of the completed form. As you can see, Dana just demonstrated what that looks like. And I have them take a screenshot of that and then they can upload it into our learning management system, or you could have them email it to you. The learning management system is the easiest for myself though. Tim and Brittany, do you have anything to add for the elementary level one? We are going to be answering questions at the end because we will have time. We'll answer some of the questions in the chat, and then we'll also be coming back and we're going to be opening this up to answering questions from all different levels at the very end of the presentation.
So if we go to middle school, and again, I can access this by going to resources, middle school. I can do the link in the beta here. I can do the middle school link off of the pop-up, and at the bottom, you can't see it, it's hidden behind there, but it was also on that page. So we have multiple ways for you to access the lessons. Again, the resources, we've figured out that it's easiest just to go off the pop-up. But like I said, if you close it, you're not going to be able to access that again for 24 hours. So, okay, so here's 4 lessons, lesson 1, 2, 3, and 4. And Brittany, do you want to remind me which one we're doing?
Yeah, the first one.
Lesson 1. And here's the facilitator guide. So going to.
Okay, so I just want to mention that I know I said earlier that I'm a K-4 librarian, but I tend to use the middle school lessons a lot with my older students, especially my 4th graders. I do sometimes look to see how much they already know. A lot of times it's a lot because we know our kids do a lot more than what they really should be doing, especially social media wise. But this lesson is my absolute favorite. So this whole lesson, if you aren't familiar with our resources, is about creators and consumers. It's all in a positive way, but it's really getting the kids to understand that they're creators too. And it shows them that with them being creators, it almost opens up their eyes to want to protect others' works as well. So I'm going to look at the very last lock. And before she clicks on it, I do want to mention how it looks really similar to the elementary. So you'll notice that you've got the locks over on the sidebar. It has the Google form. So it's still consistent with how elementary worked. Okay, if you'll click on the last lock, we're going to look at the direction lock. So the big difference is the level of independence. While elementary, we thought about it being facilitated as a whole class. Middle school versions were designed really with the independent student work in mind. This one here is a direction lock, but this lock is based on a quote that is actually from the lesson. So this one, can you go back to the homepage real fast? So one of the things I wanted to mention about that lock real fast is that even though there's a lot of words on there, that quote is directly from the video. However, if you come up at the front where it says tips for the digital escape room, you can also encourage the kids to click on that independent learning video and they can watch the video again. That will really help reinforce the lesson's key points. And also they'll be able to see that exact quote because it's a video or a cartoon character of Taylor Swift and she's talking about her quote about Spotify. Okay, we can go back to the.
Too many windows open. Okay, here we go.
All right. So what you would do is we've got some colors to kind of throw them off a little because again, we wanted this to be a little bit more challenging. But they'll go through and they'll read. We did put that it was in 2014 because, she has since put music on Spotify, but they'll read through like 2014, she decided to take her music down. We want them to notice those directional words as they go through. So they'll have to read the entire thing, go all the way through, and then they will go back to the Google form and put in the correct directional words. And again, we are really thinking that this will be done independently. Even though I said my 4th graders, this is still thought of as 7th, 8th grade. So we know these kids can do it a little bit more independently than what we expect our elementary students to be able to do. Yes, there is spaces. The good thing about, I saw someone ask that in chat. The good thing about the Google form is it shows you that on there. So if you'll click on the Google form.
Bear with me.
Sorry, we've asked Dana to open a whole bunch of
tabs. I have too many windows open. Okay, so I'll go back to so here's the Google form, sorry. Okay, yep. And so it would be for this one.
Yep, at that last one, that direction lock, it says all lowercase with the space in between. So that is something that you might want to point out. And like Jen said, if this is the first time your students have ever done an escape room, I know my school, my teachers have never done any breakout EDU. So with my students, I would really have to be explicit in my instructions to them. So you would put that there. If they are stuck, and your kids are doing this independently, here's some things that you could really mention to them. Have them review that video. Again, we showed you where that video is embedded, because we really want this to be an extension of the lesson. The whole thought of these resources for the escape room is for it to be an extension, for it to be a reinforcement, not to take place of the lesson. So you do want to make sure that they've had these lessons on copyright before, they've seen the things, and not that they have to for sure see this one independent video, but it is good for them to go back and look at it so that they can really understand why in the world is that lock even there. Also have them look for clues in the first puzzle. On this one, it's a word lock, and you can just scroll up.
This one?
No, it's the one at the top.
This
Yeah,
one.
that one. I just use this one as a quick example because the pictures really they don't need the pictures to answer the lock because it's a cipher. However, the pictures are giving them clues to the answer of the cipher. So that's another thing that they can use for a hint. And then that's, if they're still struggling, that's where you come in the facilitator guide. Just like the elementary facilitator guide, the middle school and high school facilitator guides are just the same. They're going to have all of that information for you. So again, I kind of just want to reiterate that, in elementary, it is thought of it being more whole group. This one, it's starting to move to independent, but again, it's an extension activity that we hope will really help to reinforce that critical thinking skills and also copyright for the students. Did I miss anything, Jen and Tim?
No, I think we're ready to move on to high school. So let me close out some of these windows though. So that we can not have so much open. Okay, so we'll go back to our website. I'm going to click on the pop-up this time and you'll see that it takes you directly to the high school escape room activities homepage, if you will. And there's 3 sets of puzzles to correspond to our lessons. Lesson A, creativity in the online world. Lesson B, acquiring and sharing legally. And lesson C, using copyrighted works in our own creations. So Tim, which one lesson were we doing?
High school C.
High school C. And you'll see here's the facilitator guide. So I'll just click on that. So you'll see that that's available to you. And we'll go to C.
And again, the format or the layout looks the same no matter what level you're at. I guess I would point out that your Google Forms on the left, on the right, you have images that represent the 4 different locks. But if you click on those, or if you click on in the menu for each individual lock, it's going to take you to another screen where it's going to show it to you larger, where you probably do your problem solving from it. So those are large thumbnails is what I would call them. We're going to look at the shape lock today. And this is, and I deliberately picked this one out because it's probably the most challenging of the locks we have, or right up there with a couple others as really challenging. And in the feedback and review process, this one I think caused a lot of indigestion for a lot of people because of the difficulty level of it. But we're talking about high school kids, and we're talking about our third escape room at the high school level. And so it's, as much as we tend to think that problem solving skills are a fading art or a talent, the kids can problem solve if they have to. And I've run this through with kids and it works. And so we kept the level of difficulty, and it's one of the locks that I think I'm most proud of in our collection here. So what we have here in the high school lesson C, the content specifically is about using other people's works in your own creations. And so in this case, we're We're going to reinforce that. This is talking about public domain in the United States. And what I have to work with here is I've got some text on the left and I've got a map with some shapes on it in some pretty high profile locations in the United States. But it says the public domain is full of a rich history of art and music. Works from the public domain are used and reused and remixed for creative work by many people throughout history. And you're free to do the same. You don't need permission. Check out the Library of Congress to see some public domain works. And so this is an example of where also when we link to external sites, we're trying to show examples of places where you can go and access material that is free for you to use because of different situations. In this case, it's already in the public domain. It introduces them to these different resources that they can access later. So Dana, if you click on the Library of Congress, this goes right to the Library of Congress, and this is talking about the National Film Registry and how they select movies every year to highlight that are in the public domain. And so, based on looking at the original screen, we've got shapes that are sitting on cities around the country. And if I just start looking at the Library of Congress page, is there anything that connects with this? And the first video there, I see it says St. Louis Blues, then Popeye the Sailor, and I just keep going through. And as I go, I'm going to see, oh, there's the Memphis Belle. There's another city that pops up. What else? We've got San Francisco earthquake down here. And then I think we also have one that's New York. Where's that one? There it is. Top row, fourth one over. The
New York,
Middleton
yes.
family at New York World's Fair. So if they start making some connections, they're going to see St. Louis, New York, Memphis, and what was the other one? San Francisco.
San Francisco.
But if we go back to the map, we see that we actually have 5 different shapes. So if I look now, St. Louis on the map there is represented by a square. So I'm going to kind of identify St. Louis with a square. San Francisco, oh, that's a triangle. Memphis, we've got a diamond there. And then New York, we've got a star. So as I'm working through it as a student, I'm going to start taking some notes. I'm going to write down the cities. I'm going to associate the shapes with those cities. But then we have one outlier there. The outlier was over the state of Pennsylvania. And if I go through all these titles, I've got nothing that identifies Pennsylvania. I don't have any cities. I don't have any states in any of the other titles. So I'm going to need to look for something else that is going to be something I can research or investigate. I don't know what Modesto really means. All my babies, a midwife's own story. I'm not sure what kind of results I'm going to get from that. But if I scroll down, there's one that says the bottom right, this is a panorama of machine company aisle of the Westinghouse Company Works. Westinghouse Company is something I could research. So if I'm a student and I'm looking to dig a little deeper on this, I might go to Google and type in Westinghouse Company. And if I do that, what I'm going to find out is that the Westinghouse Company was founded in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So I can make that connection to Pittsburgh. That's through a Google search beyond our own site. So I can identify the last city as Pittsburgh, and I believe it's identified by a circle on the map. Well, great. Now I've got 5 shapes, but what in the world, what order am I going to put them in? I can start putting them in randomly, which some of our kids will do, and they'll get frustrated pretty quickly. So I'm looking for another clue. Another clue is going to have to help me figure out what order I'm going to put these shapes in. And I guess that's another thing to point out. With most of these escape rooms, the obvious answer is never the answer. You're always going to look for at least 2 sets of clues to put them together to come up with a solution. So I'm going to start doing some more investigating on the site. When I click on the St. Louis Blues, if I scroll through kind of the summary of it and information, I find a date there that it's created or published in 1929. Each one has a creation and publication date on them. Each one of them has a year associated with it, and it's actually the year that they were released or created that is going to give me my order. And so we've got another one here, created, published in 1944. That's Memphis. So I can tell you, as I was trying to solve this, I wrote down all the cities first. Once I had all the cities identified, I connected the shapes with them, and so I put the shapes next to the city names. Then once I figure out that the year is going to give me the order, I can put the year next to each of those pairs of cities and shapes. And then the earliest release to most recent gives me my order. So I can tell you that Pittsburgh was created first in 1904. Second was San Francisco in 1906. Third was St. Louis in 1929. Fourth was New York in 1939. And fifth was Memphis in 1944. So that's my order, 1, 2, 3, 4. I know it's a shape lock. So the first shape goes with Pittsburgh because it was the first year. The first shape is a circle. The second shape is triangle. Third is square. Fourth is star. And fifth is diamond. And fortunately, we have that crutch there for you, because even talking through this, I'm like, gosh, we really did make this hard. But you've got that crutch. You've got that facilitator guide that walks you through that will help you facilitate that with your students.
Yeah, so like Tim said earlier, this is probably one of the most challenging puzzles. They're not all require this much investigation and work to get the responses, but again, there was a method to our madness. We didn't want to make them all easy and just all very obvious, and so we wanted to make them challenging. So I think if we go back over, so we have like 15 minutes for questions. I think if I go back and I look, I want to say that the most represented is probably, I think we're pretty well, it's a pretty even spread. So do we have a second one that we want to do, guys, at one grade level? Do we want to show another middle or high school activity?
There was a question, would it be possible to get a copy of the Google Forms so that we could assign it ourselves, collect student Gmails, and see which students completed it versus using it on the web?
So, Tim, do you want to, I'm putting you on the spot here to address that.
I've really had mixed feelings about that. It's not, I guess the Google form isn't overly instructive. If I collect their responses, everybody automatically is going to get 100%. They have to get 100% on it in order to submit the form. So you're not going to be able to give a grade to evaluate their level of understanding because it's either 100% or nothing. I've used it with my own students and have typically done the walk around thing and just checked them off that they did it because ultimately it becomes a completion grade. I also think the screenshot idea that Jen or Brittany mentioned is something that also is helpful. I worry that the Google form and making copies and sharing might be a little cumbersome, but it's certainly something we can continue to talk about.
Hey, Dana,
And,
will you show the screen that shows what it looks like when they escape?
oh, so I think I closed the elementary one. Let's see. So here it says, so when you submit all the answers, it says, congratulations, you've escaped. So you'll see that same wording regardless of the grade level. So whether it's middle and higher elementary or middle or high school, you're going to get that same congratulations, you've escaped. So that's one way of knowing. Another thing that I'm just thinking of is a lot of our resources are reflective. And so we have students either reflect individually or in small groups or whole class about how they feel or what their reaction would be about sharing their works, why or why not. So it might be more insightful to you as an instructor to have your students reflect on the challenges of the escape rooms. So did they find them challenging? Did they, what was particularly difficult? What did they find on the flip side very easy? And what resources, like at the high school, what additional resources they had to use in order to solve the puzzle. So maybe something like that would be more beneficial rather than just a screenshot saying I've escaped, because like they've said, it's all or nothing. Either you're going to get a rejection where it's not going to take the responses if they're either incorrect responses or they're entered incorrectly, so capitals, no spacing, things like that, or they're going to have submitted and it's going to say they've escaped. So yeah, so that was our thought process in as to why we didn't make these individual Google Forms for students to hand in. So
Do you want to go to the next slide of showing them about our office hours, if they have questions?
yeah, let's do that. Thank you. Got too much open here. Whoops. Everything my way here. Okay, so whoops. So if you have questions about the escape rooms, we again encourage you to join us at office hours. That's found on our website. So first Thursday, second Wednesday, third Tuesday, or email us at info@copyright and creativity. Certainly, if there's any things that affect the function of the escape rooms, definitely email info@copyright and creativity so that we can address those immediately. And if you have other inquiries about our resources or about virtual PD, you can email me at dan@copyrightandcreativity.org, and we will I'll answer your questions, or I'll, if we can arrange some hands-on training. So yeah, and so I would just have to, again, thank Brittany, Jenn, Julie, Jamieson, who's not on the call today, Stephanie Cooksey, who's not on the call, a couple of our others, but especially to Tim, because he did a lot of the heavy lifting and really was a great support to us to make sure that this functioned and that we had Google Sites to, for all the mechanics. And so we really, really appreciate his efforts. So again, we encourage you to use our resources with students. You can use them in part or in whole. If you have great lessons that you've already created, picking one of our slides and a video can really enrich your existing lessons. So we just ask for attribution, or you can use them. If you're new to copyright, we encourage you to, let me show you our PD course. We encourage you to take the PD course. I know when I taught copyright, I really hoped that no one would ask me questions because I didn't really understand the topic. And this is our PD course. It's free. It's through Canvas, but you don't have to be a Canvas district to use it. And it's self-paced, so you can go through it in 15-minute chunks or whatever you have time you have available, but you walk away with a much better understanding of copyright, what you can and can't do, and then it helps you to impart that information to your students. So, so Tim, Brittany, Jen, any last kind of ahas or responses that you want to share with folks? I'm just going back through the comments. So again, about the delivery, whole class or independent or small group. So again, that's, you know, with the elementary students, the primary students, it's going to need to be whole class. But as you get into the upper elementary or middle school, you can assess, you know, are your students ready to do it independently? So can we share PD with other staff members? So absolutely, yeah. So anybody can join. We encourage your teachers to take the training. We did a webinar last week. So when this one gets posted, you can check the webinar we did last week on just using our resources. And one of the questions, or a couple of the questions, were around getting other colleagues to, you know, kind of abide by ethical practices surrounding copyright. And so having this training available, or again, we could do a virtual training for your district, is really great information for your teachers and really helps them to understand we don't want to be copyright police. And so this is a great way to allow them to, at their own pace, increase their knowledge and understanding. And the last, it's divided into sections, and the last section is really kind of those scenarios that you see kind of where teachers fall down in their own practices. We also have another great webinar that we did, mentoring K-12 teachers through the copyright maze, from 2 years ago, January now. And again, this is if you're responsible for helping your colleagues kind of understand and be more ethical practice, you know, demonstrate ethical practices surrounding copyright. So this is a great one. And again, we address the PD course is more understanding what you can and can't do with copyright. This is more helping teachers, ensuring that they're modeling ethical practices. And we talk about sharing resources and what the fiscal risks of infringement, because there are risks to a district, and the role of copyright with today's technology. So that's another great webinar. And that's a training that we can also do virtually if you think your teachers would benefit from that. So yes, so feel free to share. On the PD course, again, it's through Canvas. If you are a Canvas district, my former county was a Canvas district, and I had to create a separate Canvas account through their free network. But I guess a Canvas administrator can pull our course into your Canvas LMS to help you. And then if you're in a Ludo district, Canvas, this is free to anyone. A Ludo, if your district subscribes to a Ludo, which is a gamified PD, we've put this same content into an Ludo gamified format, but this is absolutely free. So, and you get the badge at the end, so your teachers can proudly display the badge. So, so will lessons be updated? So, you know, at this point, there was really no need to update lessons. We did make some changes early on from our initial rollout to when we changed the resources to Internet Education Foundation. And that was because there had been some changes in case law and also with public domain. But the lessons are, you know, at this point, we've addressed current technology. So there's nothing new in technology really that we don't cover, that type of social media, things like that. So I don't foresee us updating the lessons anytime soon. One of the projects that we're going to be working on this year is a short course and what those will look like. So, you know, we do realize that our lessons are in depth and they If you look at Common Sense Media, our lessons are, 3 to 4 times at least as long as theirs, but we do cover much more content and go deeper into the content area. But we are working on that short course. And so, that's something, again, if you're registered on our website, we will email you when that's available. And I don't have more details because we're just trying to flesh out what that will look like. And the problem with creating a short course is we have to make sure that we don't that we keep all of the important information and that we don't shorten it so much that we're missing key components to copyright. So that's something that we're working on and will likely be another summer project. But yeah, so stay tuned. Like I said, the best way is to be registered on our site so that you get emails about updates, any webinars, things we do. And again, we'll email you once these are posted. It'll be by the end of the month at the latest. And yeah, feel free to share all of our resources and or these recordings with any of your colleagues. So thank you again to Jenn, Brittany, and Tim for excellent work. Stephanie, I don't know if you're still on the call, but she also was involved in creating these resources. And thank you for your time. We really appreciate it. So thank you, everyone.
You want to stop recording, Dana?
Yes.